Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Economic and Destination Development Committee of Belleville City Council. Nice to have everyone here today. I'm going to introduce two new members we have today. First is Councillor Alsop, who is just taking a leave, I think, for a second. Welcome to your first meeting. And from QDAR today, we have John Chisholm. So welcome, sir, from the Quinney District Association of Realtors.
Thank you.
Great. So today we'll start with disclosure of pecuniary interest. Anyone making any money today? And seeing nobody. Okay. Minutes of February 25th, 2021 were sent out. Can I have a motion to accept those minutes as presented? Mr. Boyce, second by Councillor Kelly. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Let's make sure everyone gets their hands up really high so I can see them. That's passed. No correspondence today, but we do have a deputation today from the Belleville Agricultural Society, and we have Mr. Jack Alexander. Good morning, Mr. Alexander. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
There you go. You have the floor, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I wanted to thank you for allowing us to come on your Zoom call and just sort of give you an update on where we, the Belleville Agricultural Society, are with regards to the new property and what's taking place out there, and just an overview. For some of the people, I know quite a few will know a lot of these statistics I'm going to give you or start out with. The Belleville Agricultural Society is a organization that was incorporated in 1821. We are now 200 years old. This is our anniversary for our incorporation. COVID has put a big dent in our plans to do something in 21, but we're looking forward to 22. The reason that I wanted to get onto your meeting this morning was to just give you an update of where we are with regards to moving from our existing property at the corner of Sydney and Bridge Street to a new property out in Old Thurlow Township between Highway 37 and Black Diamond Road. The city and the Belleville Agricultural Society has signed an MOU last fall where we will move from the old location to this new one. And the property that we're moving out to was purchased by the city sometime, I think, in January or February of this year, or maybe a little before that. And there has been some clearing going on the property out at the location that we're moving to. We presently have a lease at the property on Sydney and Bridge Street West, and we're moving that lease over to the new property out in Thurlow Township, and there's a lease being put together at this point in time. Our main thing, we're going to be getting about 25 plus or minus 25 acres of this new property. There's about 59 acres, I think, in the total property, but the Agricultural Society will be using about 25. We are just starting, well, we've done some work on a planning for what we're going to be putting on the property. The city, in our agreement, will be building us a main building, and we're working towards getting a plan put together for that. It's an ambitious plan, but we're hoping that we can convince the city and ourselves, and that's going to take some doing even on our own board, to get this thing rolling. The main building will be owned by the city of Belleville on this property. And they are the developers on it. We are trying to work with them to get this put together. What we're hoping to have in this new building is an equestrian ring where we can have horse shows, cattle shows, lots of different things that could happen in that particular portion of the building. The center of the building would be an amend section for the building. And the third portion to the building would be a clean building where we could hold conferences or whatever. The MOU that we've signed with the city said that the clean building will be approximately 37,000 square feet, which is a fair sized building. We're hoping to put a plan together where we could have conferences probably in excess of 300 plus people in this actual clean building. The horse shows itself, we want to work towards having it to a national standard for equestrian events. And the rest of the property will be taken up with a number of other buildings, which we would use into the future for housing of animals if we get the equestrian portion of it completed. And also for other items such as winter storage for vehicles, RVs, boats, whatnot. And during fair time also used for other items. The property itself, we're waiting for a final survey so we can start laying out our suggested buildings on that property and suggested items. We're going to do that. I know they're working on that right now, and we should have it very shortly. Our target date for moving into this new facility is probably late fall of 22. It's a very aggressive time to get it done. We're working hard with the city to make sure that does happen, and hopefully it does. Really, that's about all I have. I just wanted to make sure that your committee knew that what we're doing, and we're looking for any suggestions or input that you would have towards a new facility such as I've described earlier. So I don't have anything other than that. If there's any particular questions, I would try to answer them, but I'm not sure that I could answer all of them. We do have, just so you know, we do have a business plan as of now. And we have these are, I'm just showing this up. There's a lot of things here, but this is just some suggestions of the things that we can do at this new property that we're thinking about. Not all of them will ever come to fruition, but some of them, or hopefully some of them will. So with that, Ryan, I would ask the committee if they have any specific questions that I may or may not be able to answer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Alexander, and that's great. And you know what, I think for the committee, I think the biggest piece of your presentation is this is a new product for the city of Belleville and for the region that will, like you said, have an area for farm shows and for things that have done before, but new areas. So that clean space you talked about that can house, you said 300, but I think you had mentioned at some point up to 1,000 people, and just a lot of different things that we haven't had before, and a pretty good timeline. You mentioned next fall is when you're looking at that. So I think for this committee, that's great. One of our strategic directions is the creation of 10 new tourism products a year. I'm sure Doug is frothing at the mouth right now, just knowing that there's another product to promote, and it fits with agriculture. But so that's really great. Any questions from committee members at all, Mr. Alexander? Mr. Gamble, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Alexander. That's exciting, great news, and happy anniversary, 200 years, certainly to be celebrated. That's fantastic. Like Councillor Williams, my interest is really piqued by the clean building, at 37,000 square feet and 300 plus guests, or perhaps now we're hearing up to 1,000. My question is, who do you, or what's the layout for event planning or event management? Who would take care of that?
We would, we're thinking about having our own marketing end of it, but working with all the people within the city that are in the marketing business, and working through them and ourselves to fill this place every weekend if we could, and once we get going. It's going to take us a little while to get going. There's, as everyone knows, it doesn't start overnight, but we need to make sure that we have something happening in this building, because it's not going to be inexpensive to keep the building up and operating, as you well know. And that's our goal. And we're hoping that we can work with you, with all different organizations, the chamber, anyone in the city that has an interest in trying to make the city of Belleville a better place to live and work. And that's where we are right now. We're just at the initial planning stages for that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. That helps. If you haven't already, you might want to consider a budget item for that. I think that would be
Yes.
Certainly a full-time person or a team to take care of such a great
Right.
facility. That's awesome. Thanks.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gamble. Any more questions at all for Mr. Alexander?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr. King, go ahead.
not related to the Agriculture Society, but I just want to say hi to Jack and recognize him. He's a past chair of the Quinney Economic Development Commission, was a Belleville appointee and chair back in, I think, 2003, Jack. So did a lot of great work and laid the foundation for a lot of the things we do at Quinney Economic Development still. So glad to see you're still active and making a difference in the community, Jack. Good work.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Great stuff. Okay, any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Really enjoyed that. We look forward to seeing what the Belleville Agriculture Society brings forward, and this board will continue to work with you as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if anybody has any ideas, please bring them forward, and we're certainly open to any ideas.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Okay, we'll move on to updated term of reference. This came to council on Monday, and we passed. The council has passed this, so there is no action item required from this committee. But has everyone had an idea or had a look over the updated terms of reference, which includes now the Business Retention and Expansion Committee? So now that committee is going to be merged into here, and it's probably no surprise to anyone because I think most of that committee already was on this committee, so it made a lot of sense. But any questions or comments on those at all? Okay, Karen, did you have anything you want to say about that?
The only thing I will add is that we will add to the agenda a section on the agenda for business retention and expansion to make sure it gets the attention that it would have had on its own committee. So that to the agenda ongoing.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Okay, the Economic Development Activity Report, Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Williams. So again, this is just a bit of a summary of some of the things that we have been working on in the department. It's not a comprehensive list, as I always mention. It just highlights a few of the projects that we're working on. Some of the items, you know, really are just a line item. It may look very brief, but does not reflect all of the work that goes on behind the scenes. Kimberly O'Brien-Mumbry and Alicia Purchase in our office are working incredibly hard, moving some of these projects through. So you'll see on that list a lot of projects that they're spearheading, that they are moving forward. So I just want to, it's an opportunity for me to say thank you to them for all of the hard work, for all of the progress they've been making on some of these projects. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on anything specific.
Great. Any questions at all from any committee members? Okay, thank you, Karen. That looks fantastic. And I know you guys are working hard on a lot of different things right now. And hopefully after next week's budget, and just so, just a note on that, council is still looking at the staff request that's coming to budget next Tuesday for Karen, so she can get help to complete all of the tasks that she needs to do, the many tasks. Okay, the EDD strategic plan report card, which is attached. Karen, go ahead with that.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Williams. So the strategic plan report card was something that the consultant who guided us through the strategic planning process prepared for us. And it's something that will allow us to track progress on the priorities that were identified in the strategic plan. So this is the first time the report card has come forward to the committee complete. A lot of the objectives and the strategies that were identified in the plan are worked on by a variety of organizations. So not just the city, but also, for example, a Qedc, the Center for Workforce Development, the Chamber, the BIA. And so what we've done is asked our partners, and we have as well, updated on all the activities that have been happening, or the latest activities that have been happening around all of the strategies identified in the strategic plan for the EDDC. So we will bring this forward at every meeting. We'll ask all of our partners to update it monthly so that the committee can track the progress that's being made on the priorities that have been established.
Okay, and I'll open this up for questions or comment. I just want to state, I think this is one of the most important things this committee is doing. It not only allows us to keep looking at the strategic plan that we passed just about a year and a half ago now, but to see the updates and how we're progressing on that plan. I think that's just so important to the work that we're doing and to make sure that we're focused on the work that we're doing. And specifically, I think it's also to avoid duplication. And thank you very much to all the resource members who have updated this plan. I think that speaks to not only what the staff in City of Belleville are doing, but also what the rest of this region is doing in terms of these strategies and measurables. It also speaks, I think, that we were correct in a lot of in the hours we put into this on the amount of work that was needed for this plan, but also on what we're working on, because we're seeing progress. We're seeing progress. I know from the Center of Workforce Development, there's a lot of things happening with Objective 1 right now to attract and train workers to meet Belleville's labor shortages. And Brad, I know you're going to update us on that shortly because you're working really hard on that. Also to identify and fill the needs of economic sectors that offer well-paid jobs. That's a big one. And I know there's some more work that we need to put into that one. And then of course, the third one, which is establish Belleville as a destination of choice. And I know that the Bay Quinney Regional Marketing Board is working as well as Belleville, but this is really important. I think that the committee stays on track with what we need to do. And for committee members, it's a good idea to challenge and make sure that we're staying on track, but also through new business in this committee to bring things forward that you think we need to do to fill in gaps and to make sure that we're still moving forward with as much of this as possible. Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, this is a 5-year plan. So this is, even with COVID in the middle, something that we need to have finished by 2024, I think. So that's something also to keep in note. Any comments or questions on that? Mr. Stevenson and Mr. Boyce.
Through Chair Williams to the committee, I'm a non-voting member, but somebody who's involved in this reporting. I love how this group meets every month and we hear from the resource groups like myself and others on this call with updates. I'd love to make a pitch to this committee for discussion that reporting according to the strategic plan happen less often. The reason being, I know for myself, to see progress on some of these bigger projects is really tough when we get as micro as monthly. So I'd be interested to pitch something like quarterly or bi-yearly, and maybe it would even include the resource groups, myself, QHBA, Chamber, QEDC, downtown, et cetera, getting together pre-meeting to go over our notes and assemble them, and then dedicate some real quality time to hammering out the results of the reporting in the meetings. So that's my pitch to the group.
Yes, that sounds reasonable. So Karen, we can take that into account. Mr. Boyce, then I'll have Ms. Raycraft.
Yeah, great idea, Doug. Just maybe I can give an explanation on the MAT revenue. And I see that we're down just 9%, which is wonderful considering 31% average in Canada. Does this take into account all the new hotel accommodation rooms, and do we have a breakdown of how many new rooms that we have in the area as compared to when we first started the MAT revenue?
I can respond to that. So yes, Edge, we do have a listing of all of the hotels, all the hotel rooms, and they are done by year, so we can see what years they have. They've come on stream. We are currently collecting from all hotels that are renting rooms, so that's the good news. One area that we are still struggling to collect from is the short-term accommodators. Council approved an agreement with Airbnb to have Airbnb start collecting on our behalf from all of their customers. We signed the agreement, but Airbnb has since pulled back and said that they will not collect on our behalf. They will collect when the province treats all platforms the same. So what they've said is they want our help to lobby the provincial government to require all short-term accommodation platforms to collect a municipal accommodation tax. And until that happens, they will not collect the tax on our behalf. So for us, there's a challenge there. We know we have a number of short-term accommodations or Airbnbs in the city. We just don't have the manpower, one, to identify them, and two, to help them or encourage them to start collecting the 4% tax. So hopefully that answers your question, but I know it does go a little bit further.
Yeah. So when they say they're not going to implement it or, until the other short term, are we talking then the other short term being the bed and breakfasts, or what are we talking about the other short terms?
Yeah, so there are a number of booking platforms. Airbnb is just one, but there are several other platforms. Everybody, because Airbnb is the biggest, everybody's targeting Airbnb to collect this 4% for them. And what they're saying is, we're not going to collect it unless it's going to be collected from all the platforms. So our only option for collecting that 4% now is to go to the individual bed and breakfast or short-term accommodators in the city and ask and require them to collect the 4% and remit that 4%.
And are other municipalities, do we know of any that are without Airbnb doing it? Do we know other municipalities that have implemented some type of policy in which they can collect it from other short-term groups?
Certainly, Airbnb has signed a number of these voluntary collection agreements with other communities. They've just said they're not going to do it anymore. So they stopped, I'm going to say about a year ago, signing new agreements. And some communities are collecting them from platforms. I'm not aware of any that are collecting them from other platforms. Alicia, I know in our office, has dealt with this a little bit more than I have, so she may have more information. But I think most communities at this point are tasked with identifying and collecting from individual short-term accommodators at this point. Some communities have large departments. Some have bylaws requiring them to register so that they can be regulated, and they use that list in order to collect the 4% MAT. We don't regulate or license Airbnbs, so we don't have that, unfortunately, that list to go from.
And is there any talk amongst council about getting a list or doing a licensing for them? I just see that you know, we're doing it for the hotels, and they're easy to target because there's, you know, you can see the hotels, but there are a number of these small Airbnbs that even the neighbors don't even know if they're Airbnbs or not. Is there a way of looking at licensing them on behalf of the city?
Through the chair to Councillor Boyce, absolutely, it's something that the city can look at. The issue around that certainly is manpower. You know, if you look at a platform now, you might see 70 Airbnbs in Belleville. If you look 2 months from now, you could see 130 Airbnbs in Belleville. So there's a lot of work to not only create the list of locations, but also keep that maintained, connect with all of those short-term accommodators, collect the fees. there just isn't the manpower, I don't believe, in the city to license and then manage those licenses. So I'm not aware that it's been talked about at council, but that would probably be the first issue to be discussed, is where would we find the manpower to do that?
Yeah, certainly not from your department, but from the second floor is what I was thinking through the bylaw enforcement.
Yeah, I suspect they would have a manpower issue with that as well, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If I can, Councillor Williams, Chair, to Edge's question, the reality is licensing and regulating them would probably become a business licensing issue. So it would be done in cooperation with corporate services and building folks, because it would become an enforcement issue for non-compliance with the bylaw. There are municipalities that regulate short-term accommodations, including Airbnb. It is a mixed bag across the province. My counterparts have discussed it at length and the difficulty. So while we understand Airbnb's stance as far as treatment by the province on a fair and equitable platform with regulations, I can assure you in my discussion with folks in Prince Edward County who are doing their best to regulate and license and collect from short-term accommodators, they will identify them, and that list, as Karen has identified, grows tenfold from month to month, and certainly seasonally you can expect, or I'm sure you can appreciate how it grows. They will attempt to contact and they scan ads, and they will contact short-term accommodators to collect, only to be told that, oh, the ad is outdated and we're not certainly in business today, only to have a staff member book it for the weekend and find out that it's booked for the next 2 years solid. So then it becomes an enforcement issue and as Karen stated, a resource allocation issue. So it would be in Prince Edward County, you could probably hire 5 or 10 people full-time to police just that issue. And then it's a revenue proposition: are your fines and revenue being collected? Is it even static? Are you cost recovery, or are you losing money? So certainly I've had a couple of council members talk to me about the licensing of short-term accommodators, and we're looking at it, which is why I've had conversations with some of my colleagues. I don't think it's off the table. It is certainly just something that we're going to have to consider and look at what the costs are related versus the revenue, and then go from there.
I just think with council's hard work that they've been doing in terms of looking for affordable housing, and we're hearing that many places are deciding to go with Airbnb and different places like that short term, because they're getting a lot more money than if they were to rent it by the month to people. It's something that hopefully council will continue to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Ms. Raycroft, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just going to dial back to Doug's suggestion. And I'm wondering, because so many of us operate at different schedules, I like the idea of having this monthly, but maybe it's not so much a report card as an activity report or an activity update. Maybe we could qualify report card stuff biannually, as he suggested. And I also love the idea of us getting together kind of on the side to say, okay, where are we at? Because certainly we, in a couple of different varieties, cover some of, we work with Brad on some things. We also work with the city on some things, and we also partner a little bit with the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board. So I just think that I can't remember what I did last week. So if we waited once a month, I might forget that we actually accomplished something.
Sounds great. And I think that makes sense, that, you have a quarterly update, a quarterly report card. You don't get a report card every day in school, do you? So I think you'll do it every quarter. Sounds right. And I think as long as the committee is aware of what activities are happening, I think, strategic plans for the most part are completed and rarely ever brought out again. So they collect dust. So this is really great that I think the committee at least has an update and can see how they're doing. Any other questions at all on the EDC report card? Okay, I see none. Thank you very much. Karen, job fair update, March 10th, 2021. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Williams. So on March the 10th, we held our second virtual career fair. As the committee will recall, we do this in partnership with the City of Quinte West. It was held on March 10th. We had a session in the morning, and we had a session in the early evening as well. We had about 40 local employers attend, which was fantastic. There were hundreds of jobs available, in excess of 500 positions available at that job fair. And keep in mind, that's 500 jobs with just 40 employers. And we know in the region, we have a lot more than 40 employers. We had about 300 job seekers attend, which on the surface is not bad, because a virtual platform for a job fair is difficult and intimidating for many job seekers. So the fact that we had 300 folks attend is good. Our challenge was that more than half of those individuals were from overseas. So we had people dialing into the job fair from Iran, from South Africa, from the UK, from India, from all over the world, which was great, but none of those folks had permanent residency or permission to work in Canada yet. So unfortunately, there's no way for us to weed those folks out of the process other than to try and direct them to other resources for application for residency in Canada. So, when we looked at the numbers afterwards, we had probably about 100 local job seekers. We were happy to have provided that opportunity for 100 local job seekers, but we would have really liked to have a lot more. So we didn't come close to providing bodies to fill the positions that were available at the job fair. The response that we received from the employers was very positive. Certainly, they were disappointed with the number of international applicants that are not approved to work in Canada, because they really aren't an option to fill their short-term hiring needs. But they felt that the platform worked really well. They were happy with the promotion of it, but disappointed with the number of local job seekers. So staff from Belleville and Quinte West will meet in the next week to start planning for the fall career fair. And I think we're really going to push to do something in person. So even if it involves having job seekers make appointments to attend the career fair or something like that, to try and make sure that we're meeting the pandemic protocols or so on, we're going to do our very best to make that an in-person job fair. We've done the virtual thing twice. I think it worked, as good as it can, but it's just not the ideal situation for a job fair, unfortunately. But that's the update on the career fair we had on March 10th.
Okay, and any questions on that at all? Ms. Brown, go ahead.
Karen, this is my lack of technical expertise, but I'm glad to hear that it was successful overall. Two questions. One, is it possible to geofence our events like that so that it would prevent that number of international students coming in? I don't know if that's possible the way we conduct the calls.
So we work with, it's a platform called Remo, and so they actually do all of the hosting. So when we saw the number of international applicants coming in and knowing that they couldn't fill the needs, we did ask, is there any way to sort of keep those folks out? And they advised that with their platform, they aren't able to do that, unfortunately.
Okay, and then the second question relates to, of the 100 or so people that were local, that job seekers, do we have any idea how many of them actually resulted in a placement?
We do follow up and ask employers to let us know how many hires they had. Very few employers actually provide us with that information. We do know that I personally heard that there were 8 interviews scheduled for the next day from a number of employers. So we do know that they're at least getting through to the interview stage, but we don't have concrete numbers, unfortunately.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Boyce, you had a question?
I was just going to say that I know 2 weeks ago in Trenton and last weekend at the guns, I forget what it's called, but it's over on Elmwood Drive, the there were 2 vendor shows, and they were allowed to have 50 people in at a time to their vendor shows. And I'm just thinking that I was surprised to see that we went virtual. Is it because we were uncertain whether or not we were allowed anybody into a facility, or?
So the challenge for us, of course, is that 50-person in-person limit, finding a facility that we can host it at. Keep in mind, with 40 employers, that brings us to more than 50 people just with the employers. And then it becomes very difficult to, and I guess, staff intensive to try and manage the folks as they come in, make sure they're all physically distancing and so on. We have talked with the health unit about our career fair, about using our facilities for it, and their direction has been not to do anything in person at this point.
Okay.
Okay, any more? Yes, Ms. Esford, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Karen, I'm just wondering, is there a feedback survey for employers that's happening for that event and for job seekers as well? Because you'd be able to garner some great information from those surveys, if there is.
That's a great question. So we do survey all of the employers after every job fair. So we do have great feedback from the employers in terms of what worked and didn't work about the career fair. We don't get anything other than anecdotal feedback from job seekers.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, Councillor Alsop, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Karen Post. Is there any mechanism by which we can compel the employers to be sharing the information with us after the fact as to how many people were hired? It just seems to me from a measurability standpoint that if we're not able to really concretely nail down what percentage of the people that came ended up with jobs, it'll be hard to manage that moving forward.
That's a great question. We can certainly put more pressure on the employers to provide us with that information. Some of the feedback that we've gotten in the past is from employers is that, of course, the job fair isn't the only way that they are attracting applicants for positions. So for them, when they do make a hire, to know, oh, that resume came from the job fair versus that resume came into my email, or that resume came to me from Employment Ontario. For them, it hasn't been a big priority for them to really source where that original resume came from. So unless they do the hiring, within a few days after the job fair, it's tough for them to remember. That's the feedback that we've gotten. And sometimes the employers are getting resumes at the job fair, but the hiring won't take place for 3 or 4 weeks, or won't happen until after a job has been advertised. So when it comes to narrowing down the applicants, tough for them to know where those original resumes came from.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, let's try that again. The Quinney Belleville Edition Restaurant Promotion Update, please go ahead.
Alicia's going to give that update.
Okay, go ahead, Alicia.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair. So this is the last week of the Quinney event. The restaurant promotions will be on until March 31st. At the halfway point, I distributed an email to all of the participants to get some feedback to see how things were going thus far. And all of the feedback we received was overwhelmingly positive. So that was great to hear. We have been getting more materials out to people who have been running out, which has been pretty frequent. In terms of next steps, we're going to be getting together with our partners next week to discuss some follow-up. That will include distributing a survey to all of the 21 participating restaurants to gather more concrete feedback, as well as reviewing all of the measurables that we have in place. And then we plan on presenting that information in a report to the EDDC at their next April meeting.
Okay, and Alicia, what have you heard anecdotally? Is everything going well? The restaurant's pretty happy with everything. How's it going so far?
It's been overwhelmingly positive. For anybody who's following on social media, the content has been distributed really well. We're seeing good numbers that way. Yeah, I think I haven't received anything negative. So even in sending out that email to the restaurants, they were pretty quick responses, but great. Thank you so much. Couldn't be happier. Running out of food. It was all good.
That's great. And just to check with Ms. Brown, are you hearing the same from the downtown restaurants and good feedback from Quinalicious?
Good feedback for sure. It's actually something that we, Mary Jo and I had discussed about whether or not we could get some more finite detail in terms of the number of meals that were actually served through the Quinalicious app. Passports, certainly receptivity on how people are receiving the passports, both. I'd be interested in knowing for the downtown restaurants, how much was digital versus how much was through the physical passport itself. So I think those are all things that that Mary Jo will be discussing with Alicia and others when they do the post-event debrief about how it went. But certainly from our restaurants, certainly from the restaurants who promoted it really hard on their own, in addition to everything that the city and the BIA was doing, they saw a tremendous uptick in where during a time that would be typically quite slow for us. So that's great news.
Great. For committee members, raise your hand if you've been to Quinalicious since in the last 3 weeks. Good stuff. Mr. King, we'll have to get you a date and get you out there to Quinalicious. 1 week to go. Any other comments or questions on that at all for Alicia? Seeing none, well, thank you very much. Keep up the great work. Pop-ups in the Bay, I assume this is Ms. Purchase as well, Karen? Go ahead, Alicia.
Thank you through the chair to the committee. So we are just in the process of completing lease agreements. So we have offered leases to 13 vendors for the 2021 season, which means we're looking at adding 2 pop-up units and 2 food truck operators to our existing inventory. So in terms of our business mix, we're looking at 11 food vendors and 2 retail and service vendors, assuming all the leases will move forward. Those lease agreements will come to council at your first meeting in April for approval. And at that point, we'll be able to issue a press release announcing who the vendors that will be down at the pop-ups on the Bay this year are. So the process has been going really well. We're in the process of working on a site plan for the property, and then services will be underway starting next week. Now that the ground is thawed, we'll get the electrical starting next week.
Fantastic. And you can't share any of those yet, can you? Not even.
No, not yet.
How many? I guess I'll ask the question. How many returned from last year? Can you share that number?
Yes, I can. So all but 2 expressed interest in returning from last year.
Oh, wow, that's great. Great. Okay, any other questions from community members? Ms. Brown, go ahead.
I'm not sure that the EDDC is aware, but the BIA has submitted a federal grant, part of which is to include 4 pop-up facilities in the downtown core, hopefully through al fresco and then subsequently. And I know Ms. Purchase was to some degree involved in helping us prep that application. But I'm curious, from the vendors who were not selected, were there other good candidates that potentially the downtown district could have a look at?
That's a good question. So we had a criteria that we included in the EOI documents, and that's what we used to review the applications. I would say that we received all strong applications. There were 3 that we did not offer lease agreements to. And I wouldn't say they were weak. They didn't weigh as strongly as the 13 that we decided to go with. We had 17 applications in total, and 13 is the number we decided to go with, and in part based on budget and what we could actually afford to do in terms of enhancing the infrastructure that's down at the park, because we have to be able to put in the electrical and the water services for each unit, as well as actually have the new units built. So I would say that I would be happy to pass along the names of those that did apply. I'll ask if they're okay with me doing that. If in fact the downtown pop-up project does go forward.
Okay, good. And as I say, it's all dependent on a federal grant. And we know we were up for lots of competition. But if we're successful, fingers crossed, I think it would help in terms of expediting us being able to get those filled, given that al fresco timeline is rapidly approaching. So anyway, any help, we know you and Mary Jo, I talk with Karen and Alicia regularly. So I just wanted to put that out there that there's an opportunity that could result. So that's great news. Thanks, Alicia. Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, thank you. Karen, oh, sorry, Councillor Kelly, I get to you. Ms. Post, did you have a comment on that?
Well, the only thing I wanted to just to give a committee an update on is at the last meeting, Councillor Kelly had talked about the holiday market. So we have not forgotten about the holiday market and bringing forward a proposal to the committee. We've just been busily working to get the pop-ups on the Bay project going. So as soon as that sort of the majority of the work is finished with that, we'll turn our attention to the holiday market. So I just wanted to give that update.
Okay, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just a question for Alicia. You mentioned 13 vendors. Do we got a start date? Are we going to be ready to go a long weekend in May, or we moving? Is it going to be July 1st kind of thing again? Just an idea. How's it going to work out? Roll out.
Sure. So we identified the schedule in the EOI documents. So what we're looking at is a May 28th launch. So that's a Friday, May 28th. So that would be their opening weekend. They would then operate Friday to Sunday for the month of June. And then in July and August, we are looking at 6 days a week. So that's Tuesday to Sunday from 11 to 7. The hours will always be 11 to 7 when they are open. And then we will go back to weekends in September. So that Friday to Sunday schedule until the end of September.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions at all? Okay, well, great work. I think this is going to look like one of the best years yet, and it's just great to see so many entrepreneurs continue to be involved, and it's great to see downtown as well picking that up. You know, I think it's something that we tried 2 years ago, and it seems to grown from pilot to a success story, and it'll be great to see how this evolves as it continues to build. We have, I think that's it for our agenda items on the most part today. We'll go with our partner organization updates now then. So we'll start with the Chamber of Commerce and Jill Raycroft. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you to the committee, Ryan and Chair. You've caught us actually in the midst of Advocacy Week. So from the Chamber's perspective, this is where we represent the voice of business. And typically it's a one-day event at Queen's Park coordinated through the Ontario Chamber. Because of COVID and the inability for us to gather in person, they've actually made it a series of events over the course of this week that actually extend to next. So we meet with a variety of different ministers. We have the opportunity to select 3 different category areas that we're interested in exploring. And then we get a chance to talk to them and see kind of where the government is planning to move. And we may speak with critics, we may speak with actually deputy ministers. We also have usually a little bit of time with the Premier and others from his office. So that's been going on. We will be meeting with the leader of the Liberal Party tomorrow afternoon. We're also in the midst of our membership renewal, and so far that's been going fairly well. We were excited to see some members automatically, be quick to respond. Others, of course, we know that there's a challenge with COVID and sensitive to the idea that asking for money while people are closed is difficult. We're also in the midst of planning our President's Dinner. A few of you here on the call are planning to attend. I want to say it's going to be the safest 3-hour tour anybody's ever experienced. We are initiating this using the same platform that is used for the job fair. And if anybody is ever interested in exploring a pretty cool virtual platform, I think this might be the ticket. We will see, but we're looking forward to the event. We actually have 175 people viewing. So we coordinated with 5 of our member restaurants to provide dinners. So that's 175 meals that are being supported that way. And we have about 100 people attending by a screen. So 100 chairs in the room are being filled, and we were going to be at capacity at 112. So we're pretty excited about that. Under Discover Belleville, the guide is almost ready. I have been waiting for the very last draft to take a quick look just to make sure the last set of eyes catches those things that these guys have been poring over for months. And everybody, I know that Anna in our office is very excited about it and the way it looks. So great job, Alicia and Anna, for all the work you've put into that. We are also starting to see visitors come into the visitor center at the log cabin. So people are interested in maps, information, other things that we have. And finally, city events, just a quick update there. Last month, I had said that we were kind of looking at an overall arching kind of lots of little things over the course of a longer period of time with the hopes that by September, we might be able to do something a little bigger. Right now, we are in conversation with the Lions Club to amplify the virtual event series that we did last summer with them. We are in conversation with a partner venue that should be able to record and then subsequently allow us to broadcast a series of concerts. So that's where we sit right now. Unfortunately, we do imagine that we'll have to be virtual again, hoping, of course, that maybe by the end of the summer, September, we could do something live. And both the Lions Club and we are keeping that in kind of our back pocket as an opportunity. I think that's probably what I've got for you right now. Any questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Jill Raycroft. QEDC, Mr. King, we're going to get you out of here before your time limit. Go ahead.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some updates from QEDC. Obviously, the field that we play in, or the sectors we play in, are food processing, advanced manufacturing, logistics, and technology sectors. So that's where we focus most of our efforts on, both investment attraction plus retention. And we have a number of inquiries that are active right now in each of those sectors, primarily food and logistics. We're getting a lot of food processing and logistics inquiries, and we're working through those inquiries. And certainly the Belleville sites, industrial lands, are certainly part of the mix in terms of potential opportunities for those companies. So we're working through those, and as you know, it's a long sales cycle for bringing in new companies, new manufacturers and food companies, but there are a number of projects out there that we're moving along quite nicely. And we also received funding through the targeted intake of RED. So that was last fall, and it really started in January. We couldn't announce it right away because they hadn't announced it yet, but they did finally announce that we're getting some money, and that's a pilot project to support the relaunch of our Proudly Made in Quinney program, where we celebrate all the great things made here, the products, the people and the companies and the processes that we have in manufacturing. So in some of the grocery stores, you'll see shelf hangers and signage identifying those locally made products to encourage more consumers to buy those products. We're also doing a whole series of profiles on different companies and people that are out there working in manufacturing and profiling companies. So it's about raising awareness about what's happening in the sector. For International Women's Day, we had a feature on women in manufacturing, talking about a lot of the great women leaders that are working in manufacturing as well. We did one in technology, and we had those out there. And then, of course, there's a radio and a campaign and a digital media campaign promoting those manufacturing jobs. So a lot of the manufacturers say, we have jobs that we need to hire right now. We need help on that. And so with some radio support and digital media, we're getting the word out there, and we're getting good feedback from our manufacturers that are participating. Say, number of resumes have increased. We've hired people through the program. So that's good news about matching some of the people up in our community to those jobs. Should also mention that Alarm Systems, Kristen Crow, we did a profile feature on her, but she was also featured on a podcast with the Company Growth Podcast with Alicia Dominico from Tangible Words, who does that. And a great story about Kristen talking about leadership and entrepreneurship and running a marathon. So it's a pretty cool podcast. If you haven't seen that yet, you can find that on LinkedIn. Elevate Plus, we had a graduation last week of that program, and that's where we take people with barriers to employment to get them job ready. And we had a virtual graduation. Councillor Kelly was there. And so it's getting those people that need some skills and some support to fill those positions, and everyone that completes the program gets a full-time permanent job, and a lot of the Belleville manufacturers take full advantage of that. Companies like Stag Limited or JBS or others are participants. With that program, we also had a fund to support the skills upgrading of the incumbent workforce. So as companies look at adopting new technologies and looking at ways to improve their performance or become more competitive, they need to upgrade the skills of the existing workforce. So between April 1st last year and wrapping up March 31st this year, we were able to fund $300,000 in training for manufacturers in this region to upgrade their workforce. So a lot of existing workers were able to add more value to their companies after receiving that training. So that's another benefit to our manufacturers. And then we have the Elevate Plus Military, which is for family members, working age children, spouses of military members or retired military members. And we partner with Loyalist College, and they do remote learning for those folks, looking at the financial sectors, creating transferable portable skills that those people could take anywhere, but really positioning them to pick up remote work. And they had their first graduation on that, and there's another cohort that's in the works right now. So that's all moving ahead. And we're a few days too early, but there is good news in the horizon on future funding that we've asked for, and we're gonna see some announcements on that, supporting workforce development that will benefit the communities of QEDC. So kind of keep your ears open for announcements in the next week or so, and it'll be good to have some more dollars and resources to help address workforce. It's the number one issue we hear from companies that I deal with, primarily, again, manufacturing, logistics, food processing companies. So that's out there, and we're going to see some good announcements on that. And then we also, one of the other items that we talked about was technology adoption, of how do we encourage more industry to adopt technology as a way to improve performance. Or if you can't find those low-skilled entry-level positions, how can you apply technology to your operations? And we're going to have a pilot project announced in the next coming month to have a bit of a fund to support some of the small and medium-sized manufacturers with technology. It's a bit of a pilot project to kick off the program, and then we're hoping to find some other sources to keep it going. So lots on the work from QEDC, investment attraction, retaining our companies, and again, workforce is a key issue that we're trying to support our companies with, and with partners like Belleville and the Center for Workforce Development and others all doing work on that. It's certainly moving the yardsticks a little bit and making a difference. So we need to continue those efforts. Be glad to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And especially with the workforce development, that is real and present danger. It is something that we need to work on. So it's great to see that you're working on that. I know that's come up before this committee too. It's a difficult one, but hopefully we're all keep working on that. Any other questions, comments from anyone? No,
I'm going to take off to my next meeting if I can, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Well, thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Quinney District Association of Realtors, Mr. Chisholm, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. It's a privilege to be here this morning. As everyone knows, real estate is very, very busy, and where do I start? I guess the biggest thing I can see out there is that we have a lack of inventory. We basically, back in January, had like 1.12 months of inventory, February 1.08, and now we're at 1.02 months of inventory. What that means is that if we had no more listings come on in just a little over a month, we would have no listings. But the reality is that they're coming on and they're actually selling within 8 to 10 days. And so they're coming and they're going. So there is a signs now of, oh, my phone's ringing, but somebody else to catch that. So anyways, so what they mean by months of inventory, if we have 4 to 5 months of inventory, that means it's a balanced market. There's neither buyers or sellers. It's a market. It's basically balanced. If it was over 5 months, it would be a buyer's market. But when it's less than 4 months, it's actually a seller's market. So because of that, based on the supply and demand, when you list a property at 500, it's not impossible to get 650,000. We're getting offers 50, 100, 200,000 over asking. So it's really hard to price it. So years ago, you'd ask a price and you make offers less. Now you put a price on it and you see how much more you get. So if you do it, so probably 90% of our buyers are coming out of the Toronto area. And so with the social media and everything that's happening out there, they're getting they're getting the information. As soon as you put it on, within an hour, you're getting people calling you from Toronto. And so the other things that we brought to the tables, we have the 3D Matterport showings. We have the videos, drone shots, all that technology that's happening because of basically because of COVID. I personally have sold 3 properties in the last 3 weeks virtually. They never physically never went in. It's scary. I have a hard time buying shoes online, so let alone a house. We had a property at 1.25 million that people put an offer in from Nova Scotia on a property that category virtually because what they seen online. So that's kind of where the evolution is going within our business. The average sale right now is about 525,000. And so the majority of the sales are between 500,000 and 600,000. In February, we were down to about 8 days on the market for to sell. And actually right now it's about 12 days on the market, which is basically the same amount. It depends on whether they have to have financing clauses or not. Our closing price to the listing price in February was 110%. Now it's 108% in March. So basically everything is if it's listed right, it will actually go over asking. And just a little insight, it's averaging out just a little over $300 a square foot. That's something in my own little stats that I'm getting. So, if you want a brand new home, you're looking in 2022 before you can get a new home if you want one built. So things are exciting. We need more inventory. There's no doubt about that, but it is coming and going. The other part is that I think I shared a little bit with our Chair Williams. In 1990, when the rates were around 12%, a $200,000 mortgage would run about $2,000 a month. A $500,000 mortgage today is $2,000 per month. So the prices have gone up, but the payments haven't really changed much in that sense. Out of the $2,000 a month, though, and now half that is coming off the principal. So they're basically paying themselves back $1,000 a month. We're back in 1990. There was nothing coming off the principal. So there is some daylight there. So the question is, where are we going? All the indications that they're not going to raise the interest rates until probably 2023. If they raised it by 2%, there's a lot of people are going to be very much in trouble. So they just can't do it. The only reason why they raise the rates is because of stopping inflation. So that's, I think, the overall view, what I can say. I just want to say something there, Karen, about the business retention program that I was on years ago. And just a little share of, because I was on the board back at that time too. And I was representing the board through our political action committee. So we went to Ottawa to represent all the politicians across Canada to bring issues to them regarding real estate. And so when I was on that committee, we went to Procter & Gamble, and the question was, what would keep you, what can we do to keep you in Belleville? And the thing was the cost of hydro, the services that way. And the big one was the corporate tax, if they're competing with Mexico and so forth. And so they said our corporate tax in Canada was too high and we should eliminate it. So 2 weeks later, I'm in Ottawa, and so they had some roundtable discussion. So anyways, I got up in front of everybody across Canada and said, well, these are the things that Procter & Gamble had told me through this business retention program, and they got on board. So that was actually then taken to all the different realtors representing all the politicians across Canada to say, we need to bring this down in order for us to compete in Canada against the States and Mexico. So that's a little thing about what programs we have in Belleville that could affect us all across Canada. So just a little excerpt there. So thank you. That's my report.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chisholm. Councillor Kelly, you go ahead, sir.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the report, Mr. Chisholm. Just took some notes. You said 80 to 90% of the homes purchased are from the Toronto area.
Yep.
What's that doing to the local families hoping to purchase a home?
Oh, good question. You put it out there, you're getting still getting multiple offers, and I really don't know the answer to that, but it's making it harder for the local people to purchase because they're coming in cash, no conditions. And I've been in real estate for 47 years, and I've never seen anything like this. So normally we protect our buyers by putting in conditions on financing and home inspection and making sure and get insurance. And they're coming in cash, no conditions. And so how do you compete with that? And I don't like that, but I do see the curve just leveling off a little bit as far as the number of multiple offers and so forth. If you go too high, it'll sit there and you won't get the offers. So you got to be lowered in order to get those offers. But for every offer you get, it increases the price by $10,000 to $15,000. So it's kind of scary that way too. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, except for I don't have the answer, and I don't think anybody in real estate. I would have lost money if I would have bet where things are going now. So so from the seller's point of view, do you stop them from coming in? The sellers, like, and since, just to give you an idea, bungalow since September till now has gone up $78,000. Just in that alone. And it's driven by the Toronto market coming this way. Do you want to stop that? The sellers like it, but I really fear for my grandchildren.
Yeah, I just wanted to pop in. I mean, as a counselor, that's what I hear from residents of the city, and maybe Councillor Alsop and Councillor Williams are hearing the same thing. There's young families, both parents are working, they're doing okay, but they can't get in the bidding war because they're not that deep as far as their financial standards go. And I feel for them. I mean, it's nice that these homes like you said, the sellers are loving it if they're making, you said 150,000, plus with the sale of their home. But there is also that other effect that people, we talk about affordable homes. It's like the middle class are being wiped right out now that they can't afford to make that next step.
That's my fear too, that the middle class is being eroded. I don't know what we can do, but it is what it is. So, and this is all across Canada. It's not just here.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson, go ahead.
Thank you.
Through the chair of the committee and Ruth Estwick on the call. She's more of a pro at this from me, but I don't want to get too deep into it. But what I would like to do is see if we could get a discussion around this on the agenda at the next meeting. Ruth shared a terrific March 2021 Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation report with me recently. And tell you what, it'll make you really worried to read it. Especially when we consider, hey, yeah, sure, some of the marketing's working, and I think COVID-19 actually worked out in our favor with respect to resident attraction. But when we look at population growth, remember that 2016 census, we were only 2.1%, right? And the province was at 5%. And we doubled down on trying to attract people from the city. But at the same time, I don't know that we necessarily nailed supply and demand. And, that 25 to 44-year-old demographic that we really want to attract, that are going to be the future of this community, raising families here, working in our job sector. They got it here. They're the drive until you qualify sector. And I'll tell you what, if, to Mr. Chisholm's point, the average price is going to stick around $500K, they're going to have to keep on driving past in another couple of years. And when you see what happened in this report with Oshawa, Hamilton, Barrie between 2015 and 2018, it's alarming. And it's going to be happening to us before we know it. And I think we need to have some serious discussions about it, because we're going to be preventing people from moving to this community and growing our population. And also, to Councillor Kelly's point, we're going to be preventing our own residents from being able to stay here.
Good segue to Ms. Ruth Estwick. Go ahead with your report.
That's a good point. The good point, Doug, through you, Mr. Chair. I honestly think that you've hit the nail on the head there, supply and demand, and also having a greater discussion ahead of, some of the things that were in that report happening is really important for us. But that said, one of the things that continues to be our large focus at the QHPA is land development. Skilled trades is another, and industry advocacy. So on the skilled trades piece, we've ramped up and relaunched our job site job board, and it's seen a tremendous uptick in web traffic. It could be likely as a result of the promotional support from the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board and also the Quinte Region Career Fair. So on that note, for the first time ever, the QHPA participated as an industry in the virtual career fair representing the residential construction sector and showcasing all of our member employer jobs. So although Karen mentioned that 40 employers were present at the event, it was actually it equates more to like 180 employers with our representation there. For us, the career fair was both a learning experience and a great opportunity for us to share what we do with job seekers and also to promote skilled trades as a viable career option. In addition, we were able to connect job seekers with real-time job opportunities from our job site job board, which I think is a big win for us, I guess. I actually heard back from a couple of our employers that they had direct contact with candidates from that job fair. So in terms of feedback for you, Karen, that could be a good opportunity to use us as a conduit to get some of that specific employer information on hires. Our STAG group, which is our Skilled Trades Advisory Group, is conducting its very first meeting early next month. And we're excited to be able to share the details of that first meeting at next month's Economic Development meeting. We're continuing to wait for approvals on Skills Development Fund and also the Labor Market Partnership submissions that we've put in for funding. And both of those are related to skilled trades recruitment and promotion. So we're hoping to hear things on that soon. And we're continuing to build on our housing and economic data reporting to become a stronger industry resource as we are the voice of the residential construction industry locally. And yeah, there's lots of activity in our sector, as you all know, and we continue to build strategies to support that. So I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Ruth, do you have an idea of how many numbers we're still missing in skilled trades? We always had a number around 300. Is it getting worse? Is it about the same?
I think maybe Brad could probably answer that better when he does some updates, but the sector continues to grow, and there continues to be a shortage of skilled labor, not just skilled labor, I think just industry jobs. And I think that's something that we're trying to address with the skilled trades promotion, but I don't think we've made a big impact in filling some of those shortfalls.
And what do you think there's a lot of different reasons why we're just not getting the inventories up. What's the single biggest reason? Is it land? Is it labor? Is there one more than the other?
I think it's land supply, and with that comes labor. So I think land supply is the number one, which is the reason why the QHBA is focusing on the land development issues and meeting with municipalities and focusing on getting some of this stuff in place that's necessary for growth, and having a stronger voice with our municipal partners on land development issues.
Okay. Any other questions at all? Ms. Post.
So just further to Ruth's comments around skilled trades, just to let the group know, we do have an exciting announcement coming in the next week or so around a project that's going to be happening in partnership with Loyalist College. We can't give the details yet because the province hasn't given us approval, but there is an exciting announcement coming regarding apprenticeships in the local area, and so we'll share that information as soon as we can. But I think it's going to be of great help, particularly to the building sector.
Okay, exciting announcement upcoming. All right, well, thank you very much, Ms. Eswick. Ms. Brown, do you want to do a report for BDIA for Mary Jo today?
I sure would. I have 3 items I just want to update you on today. Over the course of the first quarter of 2021, we've been very heads down on grant applications that will support our events for the remainder of the year. 2 signature events that you'll see in downtown, very much like what you experienced last year, which was a COVID-friendly al fresco through the summer months. We're actually going to expand the amount of time that we're going to be running al fresco downtown this year, which is great. And Enchanted, which is our second one that we did in collaboration with the city's lighting and signage gateway committee. So we're looking forward to working on that. Now that we've brought our heads up from grant applications related to those 2 events, we spent the last couple of weeks with our board just updating them on what the events will look like, some of the major challenges that we've been working through, for instance, road closures in the downtown core. We're just landing on a final product with the operations group with Joe Reed and his team, which is great. So plans are really starting to come together. The important part of understanding for our board and certainly for this group is the BIA, we looked at it in terms of the different layers of funding that we had to apply. So starting with how much of an investment we were making from the tax levy that we're afforded. So I think it's important to know about 25% of our annual budget is goes towards the events and marketing relating to those 2 big events. So that's a big chunk of money from our levy. But then what we did is layer on top of that our application to the city of Belleville, which I believe will be a little tiny part of the budget discussion going on next week. So for the 3 councillors here, if I could ask for your support, we would really appreciate it. I'm not overly worried about it, but never say never. So anything you can do to help us get that funding helps. And that sort of takes our event from BIA specific to what we can do. Each one is incremental in terms of what we will offer during our events. We've applied for a number of provincial level of grants, and we've also applied for federal. So in order for us to be able to continue taking what we experienced last year and keep growing it and really target both local residents and to somewhat of a larger degree within the Bay of Quinney region to bring them close to home, all of those elements will be important to growing the event. So al fresco coming up very soon. We're hoping Mother Nature will shine upon us as she did last year with great outdoor weather, because our restaurants, the patios, our parklets, and the street closure is a big part of what you'll experience again this year. Second item I wanted to talk about is related to vacant spaces in downtown. So we are currently running a pilot program, a paid program through LinkedIn, Facebook, and others, where we are trying to target and profile properties that we have available down here that are ready, turnkey, and to try and attract new investors, be it entrepreneurs and or building owners around specific properties that are going. As I say, it's a pilot, so we took a very limited amount of dollars to see where we could go. But certainly if you see the items from Mary Jo on LinkedIn, or you see the promos coming across the BIA's Facebook page, please share. The more organic growth we can get from those particular postings, the greater the likelihood that we'll be able to see some success in terms of filling our vacant spaces. After the pilot is completed and we have some performance measures, we can determine how much more as a BIA we can invest in this kind of program going forward. But certainly we have a number, I think it's 8 right now, of when I say turnkey, it means they are move-in ready right now, that we'd like to fill. And also, as I say, to try and encourage investors in coming in who would be interested in taking some of our less than ideal vacant spaces, meaning they are not ready to move into, and seeing if we can't incent some investment in terms of really growing those spaces and making them available. So that's a big focus for us in between the big events, of course. And then the third item I wanted to talk to is we have a special delivery stork delivery coming up in our BIA office in the month of May. Kelsey Moniz, who is our marketing and media officer, is going to be leaving on a 12-month maternity leave. So it's again, it's like skilled trades. We have a job posting out currently for a 12-month assignment. I can't say to replace Kelsey because frankly, I feel sometimes she's irreplaceable, but certainly somebody who can step into her shoes and keep the engine humming. So again, if you know of anybody who is very skilled looking for a short-term 12-month assignment as part of and becoming part of the downtown district, we are welcoming resumes at this point and hoping that we will have somebody in place and ready to go when Kelsey heads off on maternity leave in May. And that's it from the BIA right now.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Any questions at all from the board? Okay, great work. Bay Quinney Regional Marketing Board, Mr. Stevenson, go ahead.
Well, thanks. Through the chair to the committee, and I'm conscious of the time, so I'll be quick, and I'm going to change my alarmist tone from earlier to celebratory. Folks may have seen in the media yesterday, we were all too happy that Greater Napanee Council voted unanimously to join our Bay Quinney Regional Marketing Board partnership. And this is actually something Chair Williams was a part of initial discussions going back a good 7 years ago or so, but they reached out a few months ago to our organization interested in joining the partnership. And so we're really excited about this and how it's going to bookend the Bay of Quinte and also give us some additional assets and a terrific community and more stakeholders to work with. So more to come there. For my update, I'm really focusing on Objective 3 in the strategic plan, establish Belleville as a destination of choice for tourists. And I just want to talk about funding for a minute. We're in the middle of our reporting. Councilors will see Tuesday in their ops budget meeting a nice lengthy report from us. And you know, we provided $63,350 back to the city of Belleville, downtown and its businesses this year. So when you look at our funding from the city, that's about 20% of the total funding that we got from the city that we're injecting back for programs like Shop Local, Quintilicious, your downtown Wi-Fi project, also downtown district campaigns, 14 projects through our Bay of Quinte marketing grants for more than $16,000. So that's something we're going to continue through into our new fiscal year, which begins in April. And, you know, also on the reporting side, we're able to estimate pretty strongly calculations of over $845,000 spent in the community as a result of our 3 major marketing campaigns. And so that's more than double our marketing budget. And so that's a good one with respect to return on investment for the city, for this partnership. And we're happy about that. And just talking further about our new plan that starts in April, one of the things we're going to do is roll out this Municipal Accommodation Tax to include the downtown district. So we've got a new BIA support program where we're taking 10% of the Municipal Accommodation Tax, which we're hoping is going to be about $25,000 to $30,000 this year. And we're going to work with the downtown district to create a marketing plan. So things like Ms. Brown was talking about, hopefully promoting their vacant spaces, these sorts of things that relate to our mandates. In order to support what they're doing. Because ultimately, if the downtown district is able to succeed with their marketing, I mean, they're a #1 product in this city and in this region, and that's going to help us all succeed. So looking forward to getting that rolling. And just before I let you go, our new marketing grants, our spring edition kicks off in April. So that's going to be $40,000 and also an accommodation specific marketing grant to support that MAT tax and those contributors. So look for more on that in April. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Any questions for Mr. Stevenson? Okay, last but not least, Mr. Laverty, Center for Workforce Development. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I will try and be brief because I have to head off to another meeting to do a presentation. So we did release our local labor market plan update yesterday, had a hybrid in-person and a Zoom webinar event and it was well attended on both parts. So that is available on our website when our website is back up and running. Currently, there are a number of websites across the Quinney region that are down due to some malicious attacks going on servers right now. It's not just this area. So I encourage you to read that, but I also would advise you to read it with a grain of salt when you come across the Belleville CMA data. So this is now a CMA, has been since the last census. As of January, the data started to be released. So the numbers seem a little bit alarming within the report. However, I'm expecting that maybe sometime in April, I'm going to try and host a virtual event, explain those numbers a little bit more in detail so you understand them. And the Belleville CMA includes City of Belleville, City of Quinney West, Sterling Rod, and Tynedega Township. Employer One survey, which I presented on before, just sort of as a bit of an interim report, is now closed. So I'm now analyzing all the data to that. And this afternoon, I'm actually presenting to Qedc on the manufacturing portion of that. So some exciting numbers in there, but there's also some concerning information too. So more to come on that probably in mid to late April. But I can tell you that we did receive as a final total 306 completed responses to that survey. So really good chunk of survey data. Just a reminder that we're running the Edge Factor Community LMI Hub. I will put a link to that in the chat for people. And part of that is this is a free resource. And we've been working with Edge Factor, and we have four local industries that have participated in having themselves videoed. And there are some really good videos on there, one of them being the Machine Center, Mind and Body from downtown Belleville doing the RMT career paths. We have hospitality and tourism. We have local hotel, which that one's not quite posted yet. Talking about the past within that industry, and construction. We did construction, skilled trades, and occupations with Geertzma Homes. So exciting. That's going to continue on for one more year at least, and it's got that local twist to career opportunities and career paths here. So. Couple of things I can't really speak a whole lot about. I'm in the same boat as a few others here that we can't speak to announcements that are going to be taking place, but watch for some announcements around construction jobs that are going to be addressed through a construction jobs training from entry level right to some of the more qualified jobs. It'll be addressed through a labor market partnership across Eastern Ontario. And there's more to come on virtual career fairs across Eastern Ontario as well. One exciting announcement I can talk about, and is key to economic development, is the labor market information help desk that's going to be implemented as part of Center for Workforce Development. There's a project across all of Eastern Ontario, so all 6 of the boards are implementing help desks. In fact, 2 of the boards already have had them for a while. The intention behind the help desk is going to have a variety of things that will help our community partners understand labor market information. But additionally, so when we can be approached for a request. So my example is Karen Post has a new company that maybe is looking to settle in Belleville and discussing with them what's it like here. We have access now to a whole variety of data sources that we're not accessing now, and that not everybody gets access to unless you're paying for it. And we'll be able to turn around an LMI request within 4 hours for our community partners. There's also a whole jobs tool component that will be added to our website. Exciting because it's real-time job advertisements, which also provides mapping as to where these jobs are in relationship to services. So if someone's looking to move here, it's going to help them look at that. So it's a lot more than that. And once it's up and running, I would certainly take the time to come back and present that to this council. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any quick questions? Okay, we're going to skip new business today. I think though, Karen, I think there was a couple mentions of a few reports that the committee would like on to next meeting. and we'll get those done. Next meeting, April 29th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much, everyone. Nice to see everyone today. Enjoy the sunshine. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Kelly looked like one. And Councillor Alsop. And sorry, Ms. Raycroft, you had a quick announcement or anything? Or no? Okay. Just